The 501st is one of the most well-known clone legions. Led by Jedi General Anakin Skywalker and Captain Rex, 501st had some of the most recognized clone troopers, including clone troopers like Fives, Jesse, and Kix. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys the entire process of making my very own 501st clone trooper helmet. I'm planning on doing some more complex designs, like maybe Jesse's or Fives eventually later on, but I thought it might be good just to start off with the plain 501st helmet. So taking a look at the helmet immediately after it is done printing, I had a lot of trouble with bubbling and stringing. Now I'm not exactly sure what the problem is, but hopefully I can fix that later on. But thankfully, with a bit of sanding, we can get that all fixed and cleaned off. The first step after the helmet is done printing is to sand it, and that helps with the applying Bondo so it sticks better to the helmet. Right here I think I'm using 80 grit sandpaper or 60 grit sandpaper. So I'm using pretty rough sandpaper. This is just to smooth out that stringing and bubbling on the helmet, and this also roughens up the surface for the Bondo spot and glazing putty. So after that is done, here is the helmet. The surface is roughened up quite a bit, and now it is ready to get some Bondo applied. So right here you can see I'm using Bondo glazing and spot putty. This works very well for smoothing out the layer lines, and it makes the surface look nice and smooth like an actual clone trooper helmet would look. Now that that is finished, you can see the Bondo has dried and it is ready for the first round of sanding. It takes around a day or 16 hours to fully dry, so just make sure you wait the proper amount of time. And right here, I think I'm using 120 grit sandpaper for the first round of sanding. Sanding the helmet down is probably one of the most difficult parts of making these helmets, just because of how annoying it is to make sure you sand it down just enough and not too much. I have had a lot of trouble with this helmet where I didn't sand it down enough, or maybe I sanded it down too much in certain areas and it was just a huge mess. Make sure you take your time and just do it right the first time. Now that we're done with the first round of sanding, it is time to use some Rust-Oleum sandable and filler primer. This stuff works well for showing you where maybe you didn't sand it down enough, or certain areas where there's imperfections and you need to apply more Bondo, and it is very helpful, so make sure you use this. It is a very important part of this process. Now that we are done with the applying filler primer, you can see here a lot better where there are certain gaps that I need to add more Bondo. And so basically the entire helmet needs to have more Bondo applied. So my next round of Bondo, I just apply it over the whole helmet just like the first time. Now that the Bondo is dried up yet again, it is time for another round of sanding. Here I use 180 grit sandpaper, so it's a higher grit and a bit smoother than the 120 grit. Now that we are finished with sanding the helmet again, we need to add some more filler primer, and I forgot to mention that the filler primer also fills in some of the very small gaps. It doesn't fill them in as much as the Bondo does, but it is helpful because some places you can't reach with the Bondo. Now that we are done with the filler primer, we can see the helmet is looking alright right now, but it isn't just how I want it, so I'm going to go back at it again with some more Bondo, but this time I'm applying it to some of the small specific areas where it is needed because I was running out of Bondo, and you don't need to do it over the entire helmet again, you only need to add it just to certain areas. But I prefer to add it completely over the dome just because the dome area there were a lot of scratch marks that I did not like, and I wanted to get those smoothed out properly. So now that we are done with the final round of sanding, the helmet is looking pretty good right now. I'm going to do one more quick light layer of filler primer, and then it should be ready for wet sanding. So now we can see the helmet is looking pretty smooth, but it's not completely perfect. Like I said, I ran out of Bondo and I didn't have time to go grab more, but here I'm using 800 grit sandpaper and I am wet sanding the helmet. So what this does is makes the helmet really nice and smooth and gets it ready for the paint. So the first round is done, and then we go to our second round where we use 1200 grit. I only do 2 rounds with the wet sanding, and I found that works quite well and makes it very nice and smooth. Now that the helmet is dry, we can see it is a very nice looking helmet. It looks smooth, it looks clean, and it looks like a clone trooper helmet. So here I am with a quick layer of dark gray, and what I do here is I spray it with the dark gray, and then I use some tape and cover off the area where I will be keeping the dark gray. So in that little area on the back of the dome, that stays as dark gray, so I make sure to tape off that area for our next paint. So now the tape is applied in the correct places where we will be keeping it as dark gray, and now we can apply our first coat of white. So now that the helmet is done being painted white, I take off the tape on the areas where it remains gray. I didn't do a perfect job taping those areas off, as you can see. Certain areas aren't perfect, but overall it was a pretty decent taping job. So next I tape off basically the entire helmet except the areas where I'm painting it black. Now I made a mistake. I should have done the first layer as black and then done the second layer as gray, because that would have been less tape I had to use, but I didn't use my brain and I ended up using a lot more tape than I needed. But here you can see I have the helmet all taped off. Now we spray the areas where the helmet will be black. So now that the black is painted on, we can get a good look at what a shiny helmet would basically be. So here I'm taking off the tape again, and if I just left it like this, it would just be a regular shiny helmet. All I would have to do is add some weathering and add the visor, and it would be a shiny helmet, and I would not have a Legion. But the goal here is to do a 501st helmet, so that involves taping off even more, but we get to add on some of that nice 501st blue. So here we can see the helmet is taped off where it will remain blue, and I did mess up. I didn't get the lines correctly straight, and so that was a mistake on my side, but here I am. I spray paint it with some dark blue. I should have used a lighter blue, but I got dark blue on accident, and it wasn't the right color, but I still think it looks pretty good on the helmet. So now we finally get to take off the last of the tape and see our completed 501st helmet paint job. Now the helmet won't be completed just yet, but the painting process is. So now our helmet is done being painted. Now we still got a few more steps to do. The next step is to add some weathering. So what I like to do is do a black wash. This is where you add some water into a cup with some black paint, and then you go over the helmet and kind of wipe it off. It didn't turn out perfect, but I'm getting a little better at it. I did like the results a lot better on this helmet, and I forgot to record the process, so that's on me, but in my next video I'll try to get it. For our final few steps, first we gotta add a quick clear coat, so this makes sure we protect our paint and our weathered look and make sure it doesn't get damaged at all or wipe off easily. And now here's the process of me adding in the visor. I don't know why I had so much trouble with this one. I kept cutting it wrong, and then I was trying to get it on this desk and glue it in so it had better lighting, but that didn't work because my cord wasn't long enough on the hot glue gun, and it ended up falling off the table, so I just went in my laundry room and did it there. But now that the visor is installed, here is our finished 501st Clone Trooper helmet. Now that the helmet is complete, we can see the final look, and here you can tell that the lines where I taped off for the blue are not straight at all, but I think it turned out okay, but not on that back area. As you can see, it is pretty rough, and yeah, but from a front view it looks okay, and hopefully my next helmets will be better, but it does fit on my head, and so I am very happy with this helmet. Thanks for watching.